Okay, good morning, everyone. Big day today in the stock market. We got some movers going around, so I want to point out kind of everything that I'm seeing so that you can take that all into the bigger picture and, incorporate that into your trading and investing. So before we get started, give me a thumbs up. And again, after this video, if you find that you can learn from this trading strategy, check out my trading and technical analysis course. I'll leave that in the product strip description below. It teaches all the things that I use to spot some of these trade ideas that I'm going to point out in this video. Okay, so we're going to start out with the SPY here. It's moving, and here's the hourly chart. You can see we had a breakout of this big sideways range today. Broke out impulsively with the big gap up on the announcement of some positive vaccine findings. And so there's some interesting things that are in play right now that I'm seeing. So we had a breakout moving higher. Here's where I think we're moving up to. All right, we're running right up to this red trend line. We've got a little bit more to go. It's got about 375 right now. Maybe we get there today. If we do get there today, that's going to be a divergent high. And in fact, we are diverging. The high right now is a divergent high as well. So you can see here on the or on the RSI, you've got downward momentum and price moving right up. So if we get up to that 375, that's major resistance. Where's that come from? Well, that comes from the decade-long or 2009 bull market. So here's your lows in the bull market. Going back to 2009 on this weekly chart, you can see we hit resistance here, a couple right in there. We hit resistance right there. Then we broke. So there's your break in your bull market trend. I know that, stocks, when they're up, everybody thinks we're in a bull market, and when they're down, everybody thinks we're in a bear market. But I see it more as a trend, and we broke the trend right here. So every single move up has been a back test of that broken trend. So here's all of 2019, ran up through 2020, did a full back test, rejected, and now it looks like we're going to run up and do another back test. So that is an objective area. If we get up there soon, I don't know if we'll even get up there, but we're pretty close to establish potentially a longer term swing short. So I want to point that out. Even though the market's up and it's up big today, we might be getting into the area where you're going to want to start to establish a longer term swing short. Now, again, this is just my opinion. Everything in this channel is my opinion. Seek a registered financial advisor for advice. I'm not one. Qs is moving as well, not quite as much as the SPY. Again, it's the value trades, it's the go back to work trades that are really doing well today. So travel and all that, and that's a lot of the S&P 500, and not so much tech. Tech's actually suffering in a lot of areas. So Qs moving higher a little bit. If I go, really it's just, if I look at it, we're just kind of at the top of the range right up here. I suspect we fade right in this area, right about there. But we'll see how the day plays out. Look for the level 297.45. See what happens around there. Do we fade back down? I suspect we do, but again, there's no negative divergence. We don't have any negative divergence yet. Now we do on the larger time frame. If I go here on the daily, you can see if we turn down soon, we'll have a negative divergence from this little peak right here. But I don't know if it's going to happen. So this might want to go just slightly higher, again above 303.28. If that happens soon and then it turns down, you'll have big negative divergence on the triple Qs. So then we'll watch for a major trend change. So anything can happen. If SPY is going to continue a little higher, then Qs might continue a little higher. I would look, if once we get negative divergence on the daily, that starts to set this up for a major swing trade to the downside. But again, you have to wait for the certain triggers and breakdowns. So I guess if I had to say which way I'm leaning, I guess I'm going to say we're going to go a little higher and put in that negative divergence, and then we'll start to reject. So that's what I'm going to be watching for. Let's get into some of these other things. IWM. So IWM's obviously ripping to the upside today, but you can see if it turns down, which it looks like it is as of right now, this is a divergent high. So you can see they're selling into this this pop, and so we do have negative divergence. As long as it continues lower, it will start to coil down, and we'll put in that negative divergence on the IWM. Negative divergence is not a reason to sell or to get short, and the same reason that positive divergence isn't a reason to get long. You need to break price support levels. So what I would watch for is probably a break of 166.52. Interesting enough, though, IWM did finally put in an all-time new high today. Here's 173.56 going back to 2018, and it hasn't really put in a new high since 2018, and we just put in an all-time new high today. So we'll see how this closes the day, but if it does just slightly pop above and fade, then that's going to be a divergent high. Again, a key signal of negative divergence is usually you're going to put in a marginal new high. It's not going to be huge, but it's going to be a marginal new high, and then it's going to fade and roll back over. So we'll watch for that. Okay, gold. I put out that video this weekend about gold because I saw the breakout last week, so I wanted to cue everybody up on what was going on with gold. But in that video, I kept telling everyone that I couldn't find, in a lot of the mining stocks, they weren't confirming. They didn't show me any bullish setups. They just didn't look bullish. In fact, they looked bearish. The technical posture looked bearish. And gold bullion had broken out, but I just didn't see the signs that it looked bullish in the mining sector. So I thought that it might be a false breakout and we might fade. Sure enough, there's your false breakout. So that's a bull trap in gold, and that impulsive action right there, because of that impulsive breakout, I would say we've got a very high probability now that we hit this 1790 area in gold. I can't guarantee it, but the probability is really elevated because you made this big move up and then it was a false breakout in a bull trap. You're going to have all these bulls who took the breakout running for cover trying to get out. So that is going to increase the selling, and I would say 1790 is definitely going to be in the cards, or very high probability. And I've been calling for it for a while, and yeah, we broke out last week, but again, this market loves to fake you out. For the most part, Fang stocks are still hanging in there. You can see Apple's moving higher above support here, 118.50. Microsoft's moving up. Amazon's hanging in there. It dipped, but they stepped in and bought the dip. And Google is moving higher. So again, that just kind of adds to my case that I think Qs might go a little bit higher, putting that marginal new high, and then create that negative divergence. So I'm seeing relative strength in the Fang stocks. Big weakness in a lot of these stay-at-home stocks, though, and these are the ones that I've really been targeting for the shorts recently. So about 2 videos ago, I told everyone I was getting short Redfin right here at resistance. I did that, and you can see that as of right now, that trades up about 8%. That looks good for the continued move to the downside. I've got 31.32 as the next level of support. So we've got a ways to go, and I think it's going to do it. DraftKings, yeah, this one's not as weak. It didn't look quite as good, so we're kind of done with this one for now, I believe. We caught most of this downside. BABA here, still above support, so we're just continuing to wait for this thing to break. I think it's going to break soon. We have negative divergence. You can see it right there, negative divergence on the daily chart, on the PPO and the RSI. But we're above trendline support right here. So we're just waiting for that to break. The negative divergence tells me it's going to break. When it does, when we get break of price support, that will be your trigger to take a short on this position. First line of support I see at about 268.09. Next line at 241.60. Run, this is another one that I took a short to on 2 days ago, a couple days ago basically. We have, here's your trend line support in Run, Sun Run. We broke that right there. We did a back test. I got the short right at the back test. So you can see that because let me move into the hourly, you can see because we're below support, it just keeps getting sold into at this resistance. They run it up into resistance, sell it, bounce it up, sell it, bounce it up, sell it. The sellers just are right there stepping in. So I think the selling continues and starts to pick up. This one looks good to the downside as well. First line of support. I mean, ultimately on this one, we got this gap. I believe there's a big gap on the daily chart. Yeah. Well, this one, we do have a gap, so I think the final target could be about 23.57. But our first target, I've got 44.30 or 44.50, 36.60, and then obviously that 23.57. Okay, McDonald's MCD. I like this for a short. It should continue to get rejected at this 220.86. So that's the level where I expect it to hold, for resistance to hold. Looking for a move now down to this 202.60. Now you can see here on McDonald's on the daily chart we have negative divergence here on the daily. Nice big negative divergence on the RSI and the PPO. We've got the bearish crossover right there on the PPO. And we have trend line, a break of trend line support. So here's your trend line going back to June of 2020. We were walking up that on the daily chart. We broke impulsively, and this is like a kickback. So they move it up, but you can see it opened way up here and sold. The sellers just smash that thing straight down. If something's bullish and you have good news or potential good news, the buyers should step in and bid it up. The market will want to buy that. They don't. They want to sell it. So to me, that sets us up for the next move down to the next support level of 202.67. And that's really my final target for this one. So I am short again on McDonald's. I grabbed it here at this a break of this resistance level, which was support. It's now broken. And I'm looking for this to fade, continuing to the downside. Peloton broke its daily support. So here's your uptrend line right here, going back to March. We've just been walking up this uptrend line. This thing has ripped to the upside. I mean, it's up 600-700%. So it finally broke. So here's your daily break of support, trend line support. That's a sell signal. We don't have negative divergence. I could not find a clean negative divergence on the daily. And you don't have to have it. It doesn't always show up, but it's just not here in Peloton. So you can see, yes, we have momentum moving down, but at no point in time was price moving in the different direction of momentum. So it was not diverging. Momentum's moving to the downside, price is moving to the downside. So we have a break. Now, what I'm looking for is potential back test. Now, we could possibly put in a negative divergence now if we do some sort of major back test. Maybe we go sideways for a little while and then explode higher or move higher, put in a marginal new high, do a back test at trendline resistance, and put in that daily negative divergence. That's possible. As of right now, this is a sell signal. It is a breakdown of support. Not my favorite though, because of that negative divergence isn't there. If we had that, I definitely would like this. If we get a back test and we put in that potential scenario I just talked about, I'm really going to be liking this one to the downside. Okay, let's talk oil stocks. So usually when you start seeing me talk about certain sectors or stocks, it's because I see setups. And usually when I first start talking about them in my videos, there's not a trade there yet. I just see the potential setup. I'm starting to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, and I see it. So I pointed out to you guys, I take positions before the move happens, before ever the crowd realizes what's going on. But I take positions when the bullish when there's buy signals or setups. Oil had a bullish setup. I kept talking about it, saying oil looks bullish. There's a setup here. I'm long, and I've been long in oil for a couple days basically. But here's XLE. You can see here bullish divergence right here on the RSI, bullish divergence on the PPO. We had a bullish falling wedge. So here's a bullish setup as this wedge is lower and makes lower and lower prices. The momentum's building, and this is a bullish pattern. You get the breakout to the upside. So there's your breakout, or your buy signal, I guess, or your buy trigger on XLE. It's bullish. XOM. So this one's been bullish for a while. You had bullish divergence really started to build right in this area, right back here when we were in this downward channel. So then you look for the breakout of that resistance line. There's your breakout right here. And so that was a buy signal way back here on October 8th. You then had, you know, some back testing action where it kept putting in marginal new lows, but momentum was going higher. So you had bullish momentum continuing to build. See how this trend line right here keeps moving up? And yet, if I, let me get rid of the volume here. See if I can delete that. There, that's better. You can see as we made a new low right in here, the momentum was higher. So that's a divergent low telling you that there's bullish momentum building. And then you get the big impulsive break higher. So we've already hit our first profit target in XOM. It should hold. I would expect that it holds in this area and works its way up to 41. I've been talking about 41 for a while. We're not that far away now. You know, from where we're at now, we've only got about 10%. So again, down here, this was a 20% trade. Now it's only a 10% trade because the thing's up 12% just today. So very profitable on this one. CVX. I actually hit both my profit targets just today. So I took profit on this one. This one had bullish momentum, bullish divergence right here, bullish RS on the PPO and the RSI. You had a downtrend line. See my downtrend line? We broke, faded back below, but then we broke back above it right there. So looked bullish when we were breaking back above. That's usually, you know, the second time is usually the real deal. So I bought that CVX right there when we had that bullish momentum. And then, you know, chop sideways a little bit, then we get the huge breakout higher. So that was a trade of, I mean, all the way to the highs, 19% in just a few days. That was a good trade so far. So I'll probably buy this thing back down here at 75.98, but for now I've sold this position for a nice quick profit. Now I know many people like to chase headlines, so I'm sure a lot of people are interested in the airline stocks and travel stocks, and everybody's going to want to know, what are those? Should I buy those? And that's because they're chasing the move. And on this channel, I just want to, you know, I try to teach not to chase moves. And, you know, but I'll put out a video covering some of those travel stocks. I suspect they don't look bullish, even though there's a big move today. I suspect they are still bearish. But again, I'll look through the charts. I haven't been interested in those because they haven't had good setups. So we'll cover those in another video to see if there's any kind of setups there. But just understand, you know, we look for the moves before everybody knows the move's there. The airline stocks, everybody knows there's a move there right now. It's the headline that the travel stocks are up 20%. All right, so that's not when you want to jump into a stock and chase it. You want to find these stocks like oil, you know, when like CVX, when nobody's interested in oil and everybody thinks, oh, that's no good. And then, but it obviously has a bullish setup, and then you get a, you know, 20% jump in those things. So that's kind of what you want to look for. And, you know, I don't think the travel stocks have the setup, but I'm going to go through those. I'll put that out in another video. Thanks, guys. Catch you on the next one.